Good. Thanks, Chris, for setting this up. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today for the SDR enablement on the Jenkins campaign relaunch. So a little bit of background. We launched a competitive campaign going head to head with Jenkins last August. However, the approach was more white casting, so it wasn't very targeted towards specific personas. So recently, there's a cross-functional effort across different marketing teams to refresh the campaign to be more persona-based. Ads will be going live this week, and Lebo, thank you, Lebo, have created refreshed outreach sequences for everyone to use. That's again persona-based. One is for the practitioner, and one is for the manager. We'll be going over that later. And so we wanted to train everyone on this. With that, I am going to hand this off to Parker to first walk us through the refresh target positioning and messaging.
Cool. Thank you. We want to be respectful of your time and give you information that is going to be useful for you. And so I put together a little bit of a mini abbreviated SDR, like 3 slides that I want to go over with you. And the reason being is because going through something like this with you today, although I want to be handled first and use a single source of truth, seems very difficult for you to consume. So you can always come and look at these in your own time, especially this Gantt chart. I would encourage you to take like 5 to 7 minutes of your own time and read through this. I think it'll be really helpful and worth your time. But I don't want to do that right now. So we'll put a link there, and please do come and check this out when you have a chance. And I'll give you what I like to call the Project Jenkins Signs Too Long SDR Didn't Read version. And we will go through quickly who we're talking to, how we want to position GitLab here, and what you can do to win, right? So let's talk about who we're going after. Users on the left side, buyers and managers on the right. All this is in detail on the spreadsheet, but software developers, right? The theme here is less disruptions, more coding. When you think about these people, you got to remember they're problem solvers, and they want to be working on planned work, right? So their word means a lot, and their influence means a lot. So we're going to be talking to these users and these practitioners a lot. Dev leads, probably won't see this title as much, but very similar to a user where they're worried about efficiency. They want their team to meet deadlines. They can kind of play a management role, but not necessarily people management. And then our DevOps engineer or DevOps roles, this can be a DevOps architect, DevOps manager. I chose DevOps engineer here. These are kind of the jack of all trades. Also people that are likely to be our champions. So if you can get in a good relationship, build some credibility with someone that is supporting their tool chain in the DevOps area or assisting their teams, right? These people are usually hands-on, so technical, as well as understand the infrastructure and what they're doing as far as CI/CD in general, which is really, really crucial. They're also likely to be someone that'll advocate for us when we're not there. And then buyers and managers, app dev manager, IT manager, highly technical. This is going to be someone that can really, really influence a buying decision. So if we get to talk to someone there, they may not sign the check, but really, really good for us to have a relationship with them and make sure that they can kind of lobby for us with that app dev director of Dakota, right? And so that's likely the person that's going to be signing the check and holds the purse string. So good things to think about, and just names and titles and roles to look out for here. And what you need to know, I tried to net this out, so I didn't go into too much detail. Look, Jenkins is high maintenance, right? Spent a lot of time engaging with customers directly for years around Jenkins. And the common sentiment is like, a lot of people use it because they have to. A lot of people use it because it's what they've always done. A lot of people use it, organizations use it because there's legacy systems. There's this complicated ecosystem of tools that is easier said than done to migrate off of. So the reality is a lot of the people that you're going to be talking to want to get off Jenkins, right? And so the problem is, how do we do that? How do we kind of massage that and start those conversations and realize that there's not an easy button, but we can make it easier, right? And then another thing is Jenkins is not inherently built for cloud native. The bottom line is Jenkins X started for a reason, and I think it's starting to decline for a reason. That's a completely separate product. Really, the only things that are in common with those two is the word Jenkins. And so Jenkins itself is not built for this cloud native world. You do have to still use this complicated plugin ecosystem, which feeds into that pain of number one, right? And then Jenkins is difficult to scale. It's the pet versus cattle theory, right? A lot of these are snowflakes. You hear a term called tool sprawl in the industry. There's also just Jenkins sprawl. right? Where you could have tens or hundreds of Jenkins servers, all unique, all that you can't just replicate or onboard new teams onto easily. So it's really, really important to think about that. So if you're talking to two different people or two different teams or somewhere different within an organization, it could differ greatly what they're doing or what they're doing with Jenkins compared to someone that you may be talking to elsewhere. And then in general, you combine those all, Jenkins is expensive, right? I mean, it's really hard to put a dollar sign on this kind of thing. You obviously got to pay for the infrastructure and the resources. Unless you configure Jenkins to be efficient and ephemeral, like for instance, our GitLab runners autoscale, you could just have these servers running all the time. And then you got to usually pay for the people to work with Jenkins, right? It's not something that's easy to get on and use and manage. So typically, you're going to have someone dedicated to Jenkins or taking your development resources. You're going to be dedicating them to Jenkins. So very, very expensive, costly, and then some pains down here to look out for. And I netted these out very simply, but that's the second row in the spreadsheet. And I encourage you to read that out, right? And at the end of the day, these practitioners, they don't want to waste their time, right? Like they don't want to be working on the weekends. They don't want to be working at night. They're just like us, they're people. And so it's really, really good to think about that when you're engaging with these technical hands-on influencers. Plug-in hell, this is a term that kind of spurred from integration hell back in the days when CI was first being around. And that is what it can be, right? The more plugins you have, the more dependencies you have on those plugins, which means you have all these things that rely on each other and have to be up to date, or you've got to update them all manually. So just think of checking like more checkboxes you can ever check and then hoping that something works. It doesn't sound great, right? Performance in mind with Jenkins, you build something up high enough, it's going to topple over. So unless you put a lot of effort into distributing your architecture with Jenkins, you're going to be building on top of each other and building this huge monolith that will eventually fall over like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And then cloud native, we talked about that. Manager pane's a little bit different. You think about the same things, but scalability, because they're thinking about their team, right? They're thinking about how do I get more on, how do I be efficient, how do I be productive. Time to value, obviously, same thing. You're thinking about, okay, how am I going to ramp these people up? How am I going to get them on? How am I going to get Jenkins ready to rock? Managing change management isn't easy, right? There's Jenkins is not like GitLab where we have this single data store that's like really nice. You have all your data right here in one place. Jenkins is a Java application. It doesn't even have a traditional database, right? So when you think about it like that, there's a lot of work that has to be done for you to know who did what, when they did it, and how they did it. And then cloud native and total cost of ownership, which we've gone into. So I like to spend time on that because knowing your audience here is crucial, right? Knowing how to engage with them and being sensitive to these kind of things is going to be important for you. And what you can do to win. Obviously, thinking about that when you're talking and engaging with your prospects, but position GitLab in a way that is not going to make them feel like a threat too. So when we're talking about, a lot of people want to get off Jenkins or we've got an initiative or we just don't know how. There's also going to be a contingent of people that Jenkins has always been their life. And this is like how they make their money. They've always been the Jenkins person. And so think about that too, right? Like you don't want to come in and be like, hey, how you doing, man? I'm going to take your job, so let's think about those kind of things too and be sensitive to that and kind of think about when rip and replace might be the play and when like better together and easing into that might be a better play. And then a few things to position GitLab, right? One thing that should always be going through your head is, we've got leading SCM, we've got leading CI, we've got leading code review right here, right? All in one. That's really, really powerful, especially for a developer. And then built-in security and compliance. Everyone cares about security and compliance right now. Not everyone has security scans and compliance built in from idea to production. So when you think about this, think about, hey, we're moving all the way left, we're standing all the way through the process, and we're getting in front of problems that could cause us a lot of pain in the long run. And unified teams, I think collaboration is a word that is not used enough with CI in general. But bringing teams together is really, really important. So we want to talk about that, right? Unifying your teams, being able to communicate, get faster feedback, and be confident in the code that you're writing and the changes that you're making. And then support, right? I think it's something we don't talk about all the time, but when I was at CloudBees and working with Jenkins, one of the products that I brought to market was a support offering for Jenkins and a blessed distribution of Jenkins, both in hopes of easing some of these pains that we're talking about here today. And so it is not easy to get support for Jenkins. And when you think about us having somewhere where someone can send in a ticket and say, oh, GitLab support, this is awesome. that's not going to be the case with everyone using Jenkins. They've got to spend their time on Stack Overflow, public forums, asking Greg or Linda over here if they have ever seen this before, right? And so think about that. They're going to be firefighting a lot more, and they are the ones putting out the fire, but without a lot of help most of the time. And so that's kind of a quick overview of who we're going after, some of these pains, how do we position GitLab, and I wanted to do that and make sure that you're getting information that will be useful for you in a consumable way. But please do spend some time on the spreadsheet in the links afterwards. And then of course you're going to get money. That's what we're doing, and so that's the ultimate objective here. And that's a little bit about who we're talking to and what we want to do. And I think, how much time do we have? Any questions about that? I think it's good. I want to make sure this is a two-way street too. Is that helpful? There are questions you have about that? Are there things in your mind that are lingering? Let's shoot before we get into some of the more tactical and execution parts with Agnes.
Yeah, I got a question. I mean, I come against Jenkins quite often, as many of us do. A lot of the objections that we get is everything's fine, or there's a lot of history in Jenkins, or we have thousands of instances of Jenkins.
Yep.
Per your experience being at CloudBees, like how do you think we can help combat that or rebuttal those type of objections rather than so much of the value in GitLab, right?
Well, which one, right? Those were three different ones.
Yeah, I'd say more so we're okay with what we have because they're too. I don't think they want to take the uphaul and overlift of having to replace a Jenkins.
Yeah, sure. And that may depend on if we're talking to the right person as well. And it may be that we need to start small, right? This could be a true land. A lot of these are going to be true land and expand, right? If you think about trying to tell someone to be like, hey, let's try to figure out how to migrate, 1,000 instances of Jenkins over. That's kind of daunting, right? Even for us to think about. So I think you start small, and you got to be able to position it the way that it's not just about management. I think there's a lot of value beyond that, and we got to use GitLab's value in our single platform and the ecosystem as well, and so that they know that they're not just going to have easier management, and they can not just still be the hero with GitLab, but that they have like a path to grow. They have a path to be better in general, and expand throughout GitLab, and that adds more value too, right? It's not just about us. So figuring out ways to connect with them and show more value with that GitLab platform is also another good option there, David. But I think we've got to figure out how to poke around and figure out what we can press in those situations, because you're right, those are not easy conversations. And when they're thinking really, really big, it's kind of hard to figure out, okay, I can't tell them to go at an organizational level and change everything, but we could change their team, and they could lead by example. And I think that's a good way to think about it too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Agnes, any other resources that you wanted me to go through in depth here?
I think that's great, what you have. So I think that's good. Thank you, Parker.
Cool. Just kick it back to me if you want me to go over any of the logistics that you're overviewing.
Yeah. All right. So should I proceed with the kind of follow-up process as well as the new outreach sequences that LeBeau created? Okay.
Yeah, show them what they got to work with.
All right. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit on kind of the end-to-end campaign flow, just so that everyone is kind of on the same page, how things are kind of piping into your views in Salesforce. So I'll kind of walk you through a little bit of that. I created a mural to try and kind of go through that and like put that in a flowchart format. So what we did is we are going to be targeting like new prospects, basically, as well as people in the Jenkins user group members in LinkedIn, and those who have visited the Jenkins versus GitLab comparison page on our website, previous CI use case respondents that are in nurture status, as well as contacts from target account that are displaying Jenkins intent. So those people, we are going to be sending them to different channels. So display ads, for example, that's targeted more for the manager persona as well as practitioner persona. So Parker worked with our ads team to kind of put this together with like very targeted messaging towards each persona, as well as using LinkedIn as well to kind of have these social ads with the same kind of like targeted messaging towards manager as well as practitioner. And we will be driving them to different landing pages. So for example, for the display ads, we will be driving them, which is more of a top funnel offer. We will be driving them to this landing page where it's, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more so you can kind of see. It's a kind of head-to-head messaging saying why GitLab CI is better than plugin CI, which is Jenkins. And we will be offering the benefits of single application CI ebook. Not sure if you've seen the ebook, but it's basically this ebook right here, which kind of highlights the advantages of built-in CI/CD, and then kind of end with a comparison against Jenkins CI. And then for the LinkedIn ads, which is kind of targeting more people who kind of like already know GitLab and have previously heard about GitLab. So it's a little bit more consideration stage kind of like ads. We will be driving them to this 3 minutes demo that the technical marketing team created on GitLab built-in CI if they're a manager persona. So not sure if you've seen this one, but it's the 3 minutes demo, CI demo that it's created. And then it's like driving to a Path Factory track, which so then, you know, if they finish watching this, they can click on to the next asset as well. That is more of a decision kit for GitLab versus Jenkins. And then if they are a practitioner persona from the LinkedIn ads, we will be driving them to this demo highlighting GitLab advantages over Jenkins demo. So it's an hour-long demo, basically where it's walking through why choose GitLab over Jenkins and kind of highlighting that our different like features and advantages, built-in CI features and advantages over Jenkins. And once they finish watching the demo or downloading the offers, basically, we will send them into a path, into like a nurture track in Marketo. So they will be getting a weekly drip email campaign with different offers, again, driving to different Path Factory tracks. And we will have different messaging for the manager persona, as well as different messaging for practitioner persona. And once they MQL, that is when they will be kind of pushed to your lead views. And Labo have created really, good sequences for the manager persona as well as for the practitioner persona, which I will show you where to go to find them. So here I have and I'll share with you. Let me kind of share with you the mural that I walked through earlier, in case you want to take a closer look. And this is the SDR enablement kind of like epic, which you can, it's basically our single source of truth to kind of find all the campaign materials. Here you will see there are different sequences that Labo have created for y'all that you can, it's based on, they're all the same, but then in terms of, we created one for EMEA and APAC. In terms of content, it's the same, but it's just different send hours, depending on the business hours for that region in terms of the send. So it's gonna be wonders for inbound. I think there is 12 steps there. So you can definitely drop all your leads that you get from the campaign here. If they're a manager persona, manager or above, like director and stuff like that. And then if they are practitioner, we created one as well. Labo created one as well that's just for the practitioner persona. It's a 12 step as well. And then if you actually are working leads that you see that would fit into this kind of like, they don't necessarily come from this campaign, but they're more like when you're doing cold calling or prospecting, things like that, that you've seen people who fit this specific target persona. There's also an outbound sequence that is created for the manager persona that you can drop them to. So this is more kind of cold calling or like target towards colder prospects, as well as one for the practitioner persona that you can use as you kind of outbound, do your outbound calls. And yeah, that is it. So where would you see these leads in Salesforce? They will come through to your regular views, like your P2, P4, P7, P8. And the only difference is in the last interesting moment, look for, there'll be a tag it's called Jenkins campaign dash, and then the activity that they did. They either downloaded the ebook and the name of the ebook, or they downloaded the demo and the name of the demo, basically. So any questions?
I have a question.
Or,
Agnes, I like all of the digital paths and the ways that we're subtly reaching the customers or people of interest. Just curious if there was a thought about a path leading to them going to a Q&A forum where somebody technical from GitLab can answer. So there's a lot of, literature. So if somebody is available to be led to a path where they can sign up for a Q&A type of webinar, but it's just a little informational, but allows people to ask those questions and we're able to get those information and they can become leads. Has anybody thought of that for high?
Yeah, good idea. And thank you for surfacing that. We are working on, it's not yet like finalized, but that is definitely in plan, where we are trying to do a live demo session with Ty, and the hope is to basically do that. So send anyone who have specific questions about technical questions to that session. That will probably be sometime in January if that happens, but we're still working through the kinks and the agenda for that. So stay tuned. It's still in progress. So
yeah, it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Agnes, I have a quick question. I put it in the chat, but I'll just verbalize it. Do you happen to know what the MQL last interesting moment description will be for leads that come from this campaign, or what the naming convention is? I ask because I think often there is confusion around the naming convention given to leads as they come into our system, and there can be confusion on what sequence to use. I think more of that's kind of feedback we've gotten from field marketing MQLs too, but I'm curious if there's any way we can have that stated within this SDR specific epic, that just for anyone who's curious, like, oh yeah, this MQL description should go to these inbound sequences.
yeah, so, oh, sorry, let me zoom. Actually, that is this one here. So,
oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, when it's going to be tagged with the Jenkins campaign.
Thank you.
So the description will be tagged with Jenkins campaign at the beginning. So Jenkins campaign dash the activity that they did, either they downloaded the ebook or they downloaded the demo, and then the name of the actual offer itself that they downloaded.
Thank you. Right in front of my face. I appreciate you calling that out.
No problem. No, thank you.
And of course. And just something to know, I know Marcus wrote it in the chat as well. We simplified the amount of key views that we have SDRs using. So I think everyone is down to, I believe, just like my MQL's view. So it's more of like a big funnel, just for your knowledge. I don't think it's any issue here, but that could be an edit.
Gotcha. Let me edit that then. But the idea is that it will be just funneled to your view. So it's very simple.
Awesome.
So whatever views you're using, it will be there. It's just the last interesting moment will be the identifier, to your point.
And I know we are short on time, but we want to help as much as we can. I want to help as much as I can. So I know there's no way we can boil this all down in 30 minutes, and I could talk about this stuff forever. So I encourage you to set up a coffee chat with me, right? If you want to do some role playing, let's do some role playing. If you have questions about your engagements, let's do it. If you want to invite me and get on some calls, do it, right? Let's work together on this stuff. And I want to make sure I'm here as a resource for you and that we can do our best. We put a lot of thought and care into kind of revamping the content and the creation and the strategy from the beginning. So I want to make sure we see that through and that y'all can get the best results. So if you have feedback, how we can improve, the format for this, anything, bring it on so we can make sure y'all are best equipped to go out there and win.
Yep, and I believe, Chris, you will be sending a follow-up after this session. Will that be right? Or
yeah, absolutely.
With the recording?
There'll be a link to the recording, and there'll be the slide deck that we were looking at earlier.
Gotcha. Can I also send you these epic, in case anyone wants to find it later, to get to all the sequences that Lebo created?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, awesome. Thanks for the session today, everyone. Talk to you all soon.
See ya.
Thank you.